as I already mentioned in my keynote, we are under time pressure, and let me say we have a panel discussion on the subject of PIM and how this develops any further, and that which had information marked in stone. Is there anybody listening to the English translation? Please give a show of hands, because we don't see any headphones being used. Thank you. Okay, we do it for you. Okay, right. And you've been dealing with these subjects for decades. And how, Axel, would you please start? Okay, yes. My name is Axel Helbig. I don't think the microphone is on. My name is Alex Helbig for you and your customers. That's a group with 16 locations in Europe. We're dealing with product communication, development from the beginning to the end, and were my first contacts in terms of PIM. As far as I do remember, I did an assessment in 1999 and 2000, and that was an interesting challenge with the players that we don't know anymore today, and the first contacts we had with to an LED company in Regensburg. Michael Fieg were part of Accenture, and we integrate and our organization. My first contact was a little bit later. We're at Hilo Software, and we started to develop our solutions, the procurement solution. And 2000, we had a big dealer in Munich, and they said, you created a big problem for us. Those big customers want to purchase electronically. Nobody wanted to invest in the internet, and everybody wanted to save money. So those big companies, the big customers, want to have this data in electronic form. And nobody wanted the printed catalog anymore. Everybody wanted to use XML, and that's how I found PIM. And so together with the customer, we learned that marketing has a very, very bad IT system. Oliver Frömmer, managing director at SDZeCOMand, if you beam back 30 years, with that Quark Express was used. If anybody still knows Quark Express. And that was cool until somebody else had the idea that you could use other media, and it would make more sense to not to focus on one and only media. So then we found the first PIM producer and the first customer with the first PIM system. That was ASP. Can you imagine? That was the first sort of rented software. We never sold any, we never rented one anymore, but that's how it works. So Michael Kugler, I'm CEO of Contentserv, a manufacturer of feed management systems, amongst others. I'm responsible for global growth at Contentserv, and I'm pleased to be here in the panel discussion today. We only deliver the tool, and like SDZeCOMand implements it, and also the Parsionate, which is part of the Accenture. So that's why I'm pleased to hear and talk about PIM and where the journey will go. So my first touch point with PIM was, I didn't know it was called PIM. That was for more than 20 years ago during my studies, and worked as an intern at Astrium Space. That was part of Daimler Chrysler Aerospace in Friedrichshafen. I started there, and they said, do program database that manages satellite elements, and then try to render 3D models at the time with a big SGI machine. And that was the first moment when I thought, okay, data management is one thing, but what you can do with data was enormous. And that was my first touch point with PIM. I think it's great that I meet a lot of people who I got to know over the last years, and it shows that it is a very strongly expanding and interesting area. So what I'm interested is what were the drivers for PIM in the past, and what are the drivers today that a PIM project is being started. Whether those are the same reasons, or whether you have new reasons, or is it always still about saving costs? Well, let me start here. So in the past, as I mentioned, the products that were shared and or distributed over many applications, such as Excel, and with the satellites, we had handwritten notes, CAD databases, photos that were served on the file server, and it was about to really put all these data together in one single source, and to access those for different applications. That was the subject basically in the past, but still is the subject. We still see the same requirements, and it's never ending, because when we talk about our current and future requirements, but let's talk about the past. Well, if you want to add something straight away, so I can add that you, as a manufacturer and dealer, know that complexity is ever increasing. These are not only new products, product variants, different languages or videos, photos, but also very often product data is used in different contexts. If you take the number of products times number of variants, times channels or print or online, times languages, times contexts and personalization of a product, and if you multiply this, you have an enormous volume, and this increased complexity for customers is a very big challenge. And we see this also for existing customers and also for new customers that are confronted with this in order to be competitive. Well, complexity is if you think of compare the PowerPoint slides in the past, you have a lot of arrows going in and out, but I think basically that's it. The complexity and the variance and the number of touch points, that's the subject. But the core business of a PIM is comparable. Well, yeah, it's a bit difficult to answer this question, because the question, it's not PIM. They don't just exchange or replace PIM as such. The big drivers in the past was the subject of the single source of truth and electronic catalogs. And we all know this, and we've been dealing with this for 20 years. And we basically work for medium-sized companies and big companies, and the single source of truth doesn't work anymore because they have different systems. They have SAP systems and other systems, also marketing systems that are all justified. And we cannot say when there's something new, we do this data model for one product in one product, and we pack everything into this. So for us, we believe that PIM is part of an entire modernization strategy, whether it is IT or marketing, and where the requirements come from. Therefore, PIM is part of this product experience management and part of customer centricity, part of personalization, but not a silo any longer. And that marketing is a silo system, which IT, of course, doesn't like. and it's one important subject of many, and I have to integrate this. Well, to be true, the truthful, we also built up silos in the past, but it is a holistic idea, and where not only the product data is important, but also customer data, and to integrate all this in one system is an ever-growing requirement we have. Well, let me add that the print PIM was very important for print, and you see this ASIM, an old system that came from the printing, and this was about increasing efficiency, automation of catalog production, and that for different markets in different language, and the additional complexities are due to the multi-channel, omni-channel use to serve all channels at the same time, and that is the development I see, and which of course is driven even more through AI. Michael, can you say this is not about a PIM system as such, but in the strategy of establishing a single source of truth system, depending on the data domain, on the existing infrastructure you decide in which system this is maintained, and if there are some loops or gaps, do you add another PIM system? I think, well, there's not a medium-sized or big company that has no PIM system, although they might call it a different term. And they have one place where they save product data. Some years ago, I experienced it at the big sports dealership in Germany when we talked about the development of a PIM system, and they said that they start with a big analytics initiative, also with questions like which customer bought what in which store based on which advertisement or newsletter with the customer card and bought which product. And for me, it was clear to me that PIM alone is not sufficient. If we go down from PXM and marketing and we take a look at the data architecture in companies, on the one hand, it's multi-domain, of course. I have to have access and all data, and as PIM community, I cannot say we have the best data model for the products, and the customer has to do it. That's rubbish. We have to be able to answer these questions. That's why they ask business questions, and they're not only dealing with one domain, but also with different ones. And the second subject there is when we talk about foundations on silos and integration, the second subject is data governance. And we believe today that with the change and change management, the way you work with data are dealing with many more challenges than with software. Of course, the advice is good, but when you said for the time being, let's start with that. That's typically German. We start with something and let's see how it works. I think you need a plan, but you have to quickly try out a lot and test a lot, and nothing to do with the 5 or 10 year cycles. So that you sort of develop a 2-year data model. And I made this mistake as a project manager to work much more agile. Well, let me add something. If you take a look out of Europe, in the USA or in Asia, we see that customers often have the requirements to bring product data quickly to marketplaces. Not only about big data model and quality initiatives, but speed, to be present with data quickly in channels. And then perhaps in the second step, also to increase product data quality, and then use PIM for the technical side of it. Those are things that we see in Asia and in USA, and also in Europe, because the sales responsibility in the business units is ever increasing. This is not only about technical data and IT, but it is more focused on channels. I would be interested, Oliver, of course, Michael has given us the international perspective, and Michael Fieg has the enterprise perspective. I know from the SDZeCOM that have a lot of good German medium-sized companies. And what's the opinion of the German medium-sized companies? Or is there no homogeneous picture? Well, I think that the medium-sized companies, what's this system, how this system is good for me? And the question, where can I save money? And the subjects today are also the lack of skilled labor, which also impacts on the medium-sized companies. So you have to become more efficient, to automate more. I think those are the classic drivers. But this, to me, is an indication that there are companies, thank goodness, I would say, that do not use PIM. But there are also companies don't see the added value of a PIM system. I remember a customer, and it was a manufacturer of trolleys, shopping trolleys, and I said, well, what's the added value? He said, it's good, it's great, but we only have 4 customers. Those were the 4 big retail chains. So because this customer didn't see any added value. And in the projects we notice engineering, and I think the PIM systems are, or the PXM systems become more flexible. You can do more than in the past. But on the other hand, well, things are changing. Axel, what's your opinion? Well, I think basically the increasing entities, all the application knowledge around the product is one of the drivers. What we see with the different manufacturers, that they're using PIN, PXM, multi-domain, but in companies we talk about infrastructure and to consolidate all areas and the data, not only product data from the customer system, and how from this data factory where we have all this data, how we can derive a customer experience to have satisfied customers. I think the challenge is to find solutions that go beyond the product, the individual product limits. And systems like a Contentserv and other players in the market should be cooperating and being networked in an ecosystem that fulfills the customer requirements with the KPIs, with standardization of the interface in order to have redundant data in different systems. SAP, MDG, MDM does have to store the data. That would create redundancies, and I think that's the trend to avoid this. When we talked about PIM at the time and PXM, where later AI can be used more. But you said that the customer make this mistake already today, that they have the data in different silos or in different storage systems. And well, if I have a project and I have a product, the product has been introduced and there was an investment, and I do not start questioning the entire company infrastructure. So if I analyze the status and what should be achieved over the 5 years, you have to find a target. And if I take every individual system that has grown historically, the migration process is an enormous challenge to create infrastructure, to combine brownfield with green fields. That's the challenge also for the service providers. And also using good technologies which also provide the interfaces where you can dock on, so to say, with AI.
So the challenges remain the same. They become a bit more extensive, but the question is, how can I create the path from the current situation through to this target scenario so that this is not tomorrow. I have to think in much more in the long term. I would like to involve the participants here. I can see quite a few yellow wristbands. Not remember yellow labels. Think of your customers. Who is using a PIM system where you say, okay, we've maintained the data well, apart from small details. We've got a single soft use process where we maintain the marketing information in that system, the technical information perhaps in the master data system. Several. Okay. So put a different way. If you look at the keynote, if in terms of a time loop, then we would be outside the time loop. Who has not yet started? But who is currently in the time loop phase? So I would estimate, indeed, a majority. Majority of people are in the time loop phase. Alarm clock at 6 o'clock every morning. Data, data, data. How can we get out of this? You're a service provider. You have to tell your customers, well, I think we cannot break out of the time loop. We are in the time loop because I think it's wrong to believe I introduce a PXM or PIM system and that's it. I will never reach a level where I say everything is good because all the product information, the question product information would have been answered differently 5 years ago than today because the demands and ideas are different. So that's why the reasons why people decide for a product change. So if you said I think if you stored your different categories in different systems, you would have a problem because many things change. The situation is very dynamic. So I would say I don't think that you can escape from the time loop. It will continue forever. I would like to come back to this. There's the Pareto principle. So at some stage you say, I've reached the limit to the benefits, where you say, do I have to do more, or is it sufficient to achieve my business objectives? The same applies to data. And then you would be outside the time limit because you would say, I've become so good that I can devote myself to other teams. I don't mean you don't have to continue maintaining data, but let me say something positive, talking about time loops. Basically, I can see that the appearance of different domains can map knowledge. We're talking about products, applications. How do I use these products in a specific environment with a specific customer in a specific situation? If these references are created, then I have a fundamental means to create AI. We can talk about forms of evaluating, using these data, using them in the company. I see no other platform at the moment in SAP REM that's able to map the structures in the same way as PIM or, for example, multi-domain PIN. So that means that the AI route, KI, is we want to have real data, application data. And if we're honest, in the PIM system, we have attributes and values, but now many people, we have the problem, many people go on holiday, and then somehow we have to make sure we can use the AI to use the data such that we create a great customer experience. That would be my perspective. We see these changes on the basis of the so-called shortage of skilled workers. But the good news, and I agree, is that we have two major areas where a lot of time is invested with the customers we know. First of all, data maintenance and completely stupid data maintenance. If you look at how companies work with companies, I looked at companies recently and I saw how the data maintenance was carried out. One person was entering 10 bar water pressure into the system because that was the pressure for all product in this group, and he'd been doing this for 10 years, entering this figure, and I'm certain that this data maintenance could be reduced to 10% of the workload at the most, because not many people will check what the machine's doing. The second subject is where we need automation is electronic catalogs, etc. This is today is a lot of manual work. It creates problems for many companies. People are spending days carrying out mappings and adapting scripts. And obviously the trend worldwide is towards a great level of automation. There are enough examples. It will take time before they reach the German SMEs, but we will see a revolution, not just small improvements like in the time loop, and the companies and the departments will be changed completely. Oliver, what's your view? Or shall I say something? Let me provoke you. I delivered my presentation reaction of a customer to the data problem. The first phase is ignore it. Then we have the denial phase, and then we have the phase, okay, we've been doing this, we've always done it like this, and then you get the phase where you look at the problems, and the steps are always the same. So it's an age old, but we know, yeah, they've got the data in Quark Express. Can't we use this? That was one of the reactions. Or the other reaction was we could perhaps we could take the students or the trainees or these summer jobbers. They could all they could enter all this, for example, 10 bar into the system. And then we always come up with things where people say that won't really work. And I could say, well, AI is the next form of students trying to that cannot solve our data problem that we've had for 20 years. Some companies are successful, but I think the spontaneous survey here is not surprising. Is this simply a new? Is it really substantively something new? Is it a game changer in your opinion? I think it is indeed a game changer. And I think that what we are at the moment, we've only recognized a small part of the potential that will confront us. in our projects concerning context-sensitive descriptions and automatic mapping, etc., I've seen scenarios where young people, clever people in ISG have said, for example, we know what needs to go into this ESG report, so we'll get websites, etc., and we'll use the algorithms to fill out the report. That's why, for me, it's an absolute game changer, because I can certainly imagine that the distribution of information, like in a PXM or PIM system today, will not be the main task in future, because it will probably be very easy via KAI. There may be no need to structure data. Everyone can maintain what they want using AI. No more data model? I think one point, and I think this will be the main point. This morning you quoted Taylor Swift, who said, what is true? What are the true data? And I think whatever the system is ultimately called, we need a system where the producer, where the author of data, the producer of machine, is the only person who can tell us the width of the machine. That's why we need the software, and that's why manufacturers need software to obtain trusted content, and to say this is absolutely true. And if the dimensions are changed and evaluated by AI, and the trusted content says a certain figure, then I think that's why we still need the systems. Michael, as a software manufacturer, AI, is it more relevant than PXM? Or from our perspective, it's a relatively simple situation. This morning, I was on the way to the airport. I heard there'd been a survey in Munich, how much AI is already used at the place I work and for what. And 6 out of 10 answered and said, I use some form of translation tool to be able to translate quickly. But I think ultimately, if we were to look at it from a higher level, and not to philosophize about the quality of the data, I think overall, seen from a manufacturer's perspective, it's about getting data quickly to the point where the purchasing decision is taken, and to do this in an acceptable form. And these are growing channels. The complexity of the channels is increasing. The world is becoming increasingly dynamic, even with AI. And those who get their product data and communicate their product data more effectively to their customer more efficiently, they will get the sale and continue to grow. And so the objective of each company, this is the objective of each company, and we have more than 50 use cases in our product experience cloud. Our co-founder down here, I think tomorrow, he will present the final presentation and will show some very product relevant AI use cases. There are use cases of, I have to onboard my data from the previous system. This could be an MDM system, could be Excel, it could be any format. And through this onboarding, I can save a lot of time by using AI for the mapping. Have quick mapping, and then at least get the data quickly into our product experience cloud, and then we have to enrich the data so that the most relevant for the target group are accepted. So we use a lot of AI to enrich the data. And when we're talking about mapping for marketplaces, whether Walmart, Shopee, or whatever, Topopedia in Asia, to name a practical example, many of our customers sell their products on Amazon. We have a very nice use case where product evaluation, product ratings from Amazon, the modules are reincorporated, and their new fitting texts are created with AI, and they can then be fed back into the channels, whether this is Amazon or another platform. That's of absolutely no importance. And I think I can say PXM, I can explain what we as a manufacturer understand under PXM on the development from PIM to PXM. How much time have we got left? Of course, I would like to have the assessment of everybody in terms of what will the future bring. We talked beforehand about, well, I've got a PIM, I've collected data, and I can remember various customer questions who said, Michael, look, we've decided for Contentserv, we've got a PIM system, we have in the past we had we have the data in a silo, perhaps later less. We've managed our assets with you. We can carry out feed management. We can use Instagram and all marketplaces. Well, so what do we do now? Well, this is the question we ask ourselves every day. That's part of our roadmap, because we say PIM is not a one-way street. It's not collecting data from on the left and then putting them into the channel somehow, and then no longer looking at what happens. We get channel feedback. So basically, we get this product that's been sold in the market, and we try to collect feedback from the channels and to put this back into our product experience crowd. And we name this circular flow close the loop. It's an unending process. It will never end, continue to grow. And ultimately, to express things more technically, for us, the 4 Ps, product content, product data. The second P is the price, a very important factor. Then we have the place and promotion. And these 4 Ps are reflected with all products. And using these 4 Ps, we collect feedback from the channels. And then, of course, try to use a lot of AI to find a quick time to market, quick time to value, and essentially to constantly increase the conversion ratios in the channels. That's the job of our product team using the roadmap. And for us, this is the definition of product experience. It's about product experience in the channels, and this should continue to develop, be more context-based, more personalized. And I think I could talk for hours, but we don't have the time today. I think lunch is already wafting through the air. I think we are not at the end of the development phase. PXM, as we define it today, is just one perspective. Alongside our software forms, there are experience management systems that are about increasing customer satisfaction and finding their products, determining their satisfaction from use of products, and adding this, incorporating this into product development. I think that would increase. So product development processes will be integrated to an increasing extent, because this is equally important in terms of the product experience. Okay, buy some new football shoes, buy something expensive, play 3 times and the studs break. This has to be evaluated and used as product experience. So we're talking about one perspective, communication, the correct communication of relevant information, but to get a real product experience, I have to involve product development to a greater extent. Yeah. If we see things from a conceptual perspective, we're not talking about content, but we're talking about the whole story, customer experience, customer centricity, customer personalization. That's what it's really about. And PXM is part of this. I'm very grateful to the company Gartner, who's been pushing this subject in recent years. He's redeveloped the whole thing. And our customers show that the teams are changing within companies. And in the past, this PIM department was a team of engineers that somehow were maintaining these data and then providing them. And then the business or the marketing or advertising department did something with them, but what they did wasn't known. Companies are changing in this respect, and we are increasingly seeing people who monitor these entire processes, who say, I know the data for this subject, for this channel, and you can't just come with your standard module. We have a specific system. We want to create a specific experience for customers, and for this we need the correct data, and that's why the single point of truth is just the truth of the respective business process, and we must realize that this will change greatly. Yeah, perhaps PXM seen from the perspective of a company that wants to use these data. If we look at the current situation, we have a PIM system where customers collect the data, other systems feed data in, and then they are updated, and then we have updating, erasure, etc. But if PXM means that the customer experience is to improve, then the question is, how can I create the infrastructure that has to be increasing real time? How can I take the data factory, merchandise management, etc., and create a wonderful customer experience? So for the end customers, business customers on the one hand, and also for the employees. And I can see the use of PIM being interesting because the context created have to be understood by the own staff. So the researchability using AI, this could be open source modules, etc., Command Air Plus, or Mistral, or other systems that I only use in the context of my company and train my own data. But this must enable me to understand my product better, to sell it better, or perhaps to sell it through a shop. But if I see biotech with high complexity, I can't see any systems along other than PXM that are in a position to map this complexity. So I have to understand and make the data usable. And there I see KI as an important bridge, and I see PXM being used to create a good experience. I think that's the key, decentralization. So the PIM silo that we've created over the course of the years must be placed in a broader context and can only be through AI. Logistics as an AI. There will be standardizations. If I'm a manufacturer, my wholesaler will also have AI, and AI will play a role. Then we go on to the dealer who has AI, and we will go through to the final customer who says, I want this product. So you will only show products where the availability and the price are visible. If I think through this complete infrastructure route, this has to be real time. Otherwise, the customer's experience is poor. And I think that's still the case. But in future, PXM could be the means to take us in this direction. That's my estimation.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for having joined us in this panel. I thought it was very exciting. I hope that gave you some knowledge and provided you with some new. And now we're going for lunch.
I would like to take the opportunity because we have 4 experts here with very different perspectives. Any questions from the audience to one of the 4 gentlemen? Perhaps I should not have mentioned lunch. we have to take 5 questions first. Okay. Michael, perhaps you could repeat the question. Yeah, the question was, I'll repeat the question. The question was, I mentioned the example of USA, the fact that data get into have to be put into channels where sales can be achieved quickly. The question is, will this affect the data quality? And is this accepted? And can we learn something from this? You mean Europeans? Yes. I think it's a general question that not only I can answer, but from our perspective, we see this trade and we see the requirement. We can see that America is often a bit farther advanced than us and a bit quicker, but perhaps we can take positive or negative learnings from this. Positive to say, okay, perhaps as German engineers, we don't have to have things 99.9% perfect before I do something. That could be one lesson. So we say perhaps we just take 70%. We've frequently seen this happen, but nevertheless, the product data quality will be dealt with, because we do notice, yes, I'm into this marketplace XY on my continent, but in Asia, I don't know, Shopee or Lazada, I'm present in these, but if I increase my data quality, I can achieve greater conversion. So that's perhaps the other step, the other sequence. And the learning can be so or so. Which route is better? I think that's something that people have to answer for themselves, depending on your business. But the specialist departments have increasing responsibility for sales. That applies not only to manufacturers, but to dealers, particularly given the increasing competitive pressure that we are all experiencing. Any further questions? We have different scenarios. First of all, we all know that we have open source, Google, and students started experimenting. This got through to companies. What we're experiencing at the moment is that we are getting AI into our business tools. If you have an SAP or Oracle, the situation is completely different. It's simply incorporated. The situation is not as the same as 2 or 3 years ago, where you say, I get the server capacity to use this, but we use tools that contain AI. And we are spending $3 billion to buy up innovative companies all over the world that are involved in AI, because we see that this is the biggest revolution that we will see in IT in the coming decades. And this is based on, there's no other alternative given the population pyramids in the industrial countries. I have these included in the system. I have to learn how to use them. We've had to train employees to prompt. Wherever we ask business users, are you using ChatGPT? Sometimes they're not allowed to by the companies, but do so nevertheless. And that what the normal population understands as prompting, this will be a completely standard function in the business tools. And I agree with Michael in terms of data quality. Wherever we look, away from this German engineers bubble, people say, get it out into the market, make sure the product earns money, and then we'll make the data of a high quality as a second step. And we can only learn from that. From a manufacturer's perspective, I can only agree. We don't make models ourselves. We use the Google, Amazon companies, Microsoft, Apple. They spend billions on AI, and our task is to translate the data so that they can be used in the business tools and create a use case as a result. Of course, as far as possible, we use open source or available functionalities in business tools, but of course, this may incur increased costs, but that's reflected in the product strategy. Any further questions? Yeah.
Well, your question. So how can you really use AI? Can you use this for? Can you use it in today, or can't we do this yet? Perhaps let me answer first. Well, basically, if you have structured data from a PIM system or other systems, also unstructured data, you can also train a vector database in your company that is not free of hallucination, but almost free of hallucination. You get all answers that you need, that you ask. We're just talking about generative AI here, and you can do a lot with this already, and that's why the root introduction to PIM, and as to maintain product data, it's not obsolete. You still have to do so, because that's the foundation of everything and the basis of everything. And so if you think of a supplier onboarding and to set up a classification, that might be different, but using models and other generation mechanisms. But as a company, as before, you have to deliver high quality, and you can also use this quality via the AI system, be it open source or classic big systems and OpenAI 4.0. That's the weakest AI model on the market. Internally, the different modes. So this will accompany us in the future, and we will use this as a personal assistant, team assistant, department assistant, and this will expand in companies and will become fully normal. So perhaps the last question